Battlezone by Redfield.
Hey, I'm sorry I haven't made a movie here in quite a while. I've been caught up in some other projects, some other activities that kind of took me away from making the movies. If you watch some of my other videos, you've seen like I'm shooting a Mini 14 tactical or target model, 300 yards. And I have another movie like 300 yards, no big deal. But what I have to tell you is most of my movies that I've made are made using really cheap scopes on my guns, because I'm kind of a thrifty guy. I don't want to say I'm cheap, I'm thrifty. I look for good values. The Mini 14 target model shooting 300 yards, I used a scope similar to this. It's a Tasco, and it's not a bad scope. In the future I'm going to show you how to milk all the performance out of these scopes. But for now I want to show you a different scope. The scope that was on my stock Mini 14 in the movie Shooting 300 Yards is No Problem. That's an old beat up Bushnell, and this thing's so beat up I even have the eyepiece epoxy glued on. But I know how to milk the performance out of this stuff. And I'm going to help you do that a little later. But right now, I want to show you a scope that's quite a value. It's quite a step up from the below $100 scopes. In the past, I've had problems really seeing a improvement in performance by spending more money. Of course, you can always jump up to like high-end Leupolds or Swarovskis or something like that. That's quite an improvement, but it's quite a bit of money. Value-wise, I haven't seen anything that was a real value in a little bit higher price scope. But actually, I found the scope. It's a Redfield Battlezone Tactical Riflescope. And I want to take you through this thing because this is quite a value. Its performance is just outstanding. It's quite a step up from the below $100 scopes. But it's not that much more. It's in the below $200 range, or right at $200. And the performance of this scope is quite impressive. It's quite a step up from the cheaper scopes. So I want to take you through this, and I'm sure that you'll agree this is a value. Here's a turret on a Bushnell. It's a Bushnell sharpshooter, not a bad little scope. It's variable. Nice scope for a 22 or something. Here's the turret, and it's adjustable, but the clicks are in quarter inches. They're not in minutes. Pretty close, but not the same. It can be a real problem. Here's the old scope off my old Mini 14. Here. Okay, here's the old scope off my old Mini 14, and it has the same thing. One of the problems is you can't tell what rotation you're on. So you can adjust these to shoots, hold over, hold under, tweak it up a little bit, up and down, but not really long range because you really don't have the range on this, and even if you did, you wouldn't know what rotation you're on. Okay, here's one of the better scopes, better cheesy scopes, and this is a Tasco. And notice it has the graduations down in here. You can tell what rotation you're on. You see the little lines on the turret? I don't know if you can see them very good. But anyway, you can tell what rotation you're on, so you could go more than 10 minutes. Again, this isn't in minutes. This is in inches. Close, but no cigar. It's a real problem. So, again, this is kind of a cheesy scope, but you can really get some performance out of it. Now let's look at the Battlezone and see what we have. Okay, here's the Battlezone. And the Battlezone is calibrated It has two knobs. One's 223, one is in 308. Standard speed for a 223, standard speed for a 308. And if you take this and you zero this thing at 200 yards, it's amazing how accurate this thing is. You turn this thing to 300 yards and you hit the target. You turn this thing to 400 yards, you hit the target. I haven't tested it out past that yet, but there's a 500 yard, and I'm sure that it's going to be right on the money too. This has the graduations on the turret. You can tell what revolution you're on, so if you lost track and went to 500, then went to 100 and turned it the wrong way instead of turning it down instead of up, you would realize your mistake by looking at your graduations on the turret. So let me do that for you. There I am at 100 yards on the turret, and you can see the second line on the left is showing. And if I went out to 500 yards, and then it went to 100 yards, uh-oh. If you look on the right, the second line is showing. In other words, I know the rotation that this is on, and I know that I've turned it the wrong way. So I can set it back down to where it belongs, and I know what rotation I'm on. But anyway, this has been extremely accurate. I'm just totally impressed with this, how well this scope works. Okay, I have this scope mounted on my Mini 14. Anybody that knows anything about Mini 14s knows these things have very violent ejections. I mean, this baby really rips them out. If you notice, I don't have the scope mounted correctly. I have it mounted the Paul way. Because there's a symmetrical type crosshair in this, it doesn't make a difference if I rotate the scope. So what I've done is rotate the scope 90 degrees so I don't have a knob sticking out here by the ejection port, if that makes sense. Let me turn it, maybe you can see it better. So there is no knob sticking out by the ejection port. The knob is on the other side here. And what I've done is take the two knobs and swap them. So the one that says up and down is on the top, up is up, down is down. But now that the other knob here says left and right, I have to make stickers to cover it because left is right and right is left. But that's not a big problem. The scope itself, this is the right scope for a rifle like a Mini 14. When I was at the range with this thing, I'm going to tell you right now, I was taking it, I had targets at 100 yards, 110 yards, 200 yards, 220 yards, and 330 yards, or around 318, I guess it was, 318. And I have electronic headsets, and it's really nice to have electronic headsets. You can hear what people are saying. And I'm going to tell you what, I was shooting the rifle, I go 100 yards. I would go 300 and about 3 clicks because of my ammunition and the distance past 300. I would shoot 300 and I was hitting the object around 8 inches. Then I would go like 200 and a click or two and hit that one at 220, 200. I'd hit the one at 200, go back to 100, hit the one at 100, go back to 300 and a couple of clicks and hit the one at 300. And I mean, I was just ripping back and forth, back and forth. You know, with the electronic headsets, you can hear what people are saying. Somebody was at the other end going, my God, who is that guy? What is he shooting? And some other things, you know, explanatives, I think they call them. In other words, they're going, holy, who, you know, what the, you know. And it was quite impressive seeing this Mini 14 perform like that. This scope was a frickin' miracle. I am thrilled with this. This is the right size scope for a mid-range rifle. So I guess my conclusion is the Battlezone 3-9, 42 millimeter, $200 scope or under, Depends on the deal you find, but you should be able to get it under 200 bucks. This is one kick-ass scope. I am totally impressed. Quite a step up from the Tascos and other what I call bottom-end scopes. This is a mid-grade scope, and the price is not that bad. It's within reach of most people. This is 3 to 9 by 42 millimeter, and damn good deal.
If only they made a better one for my other rifles. If only they made a better one for my other rifles. Ooh, that would be sweet.
So there it is. Wait a minute. My dream come true. 6 to 18 power, 44 millimeter. Oh my God, 6 to 18 power. Wow. Okay, let's look at this baby. Sorry, I'm trying to do this with one hand here. Quick focus on the eyepiece. I'm telling you, it's a large eyepiece. It's really big glass. And power adjust, 6 to 18. Turrets, yep. Nice. Target turrets. It's got the little lines so you can tell which rotation you're on. I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can see that. This is a sweet scope. And in the front, anti-parallax adjust. I don't know if you know what that is, but on higher end scopes, anti-parallax is what separates the men from the boys. And here we have it on this lower cost scope. Now, this scope is around $300 or less. I think you should be able to find these for about $250, $275, worth every penny. Okay, the other thing I forgot to show you is besides the standard knobs with the graduations on it, it also has two knobs that comes with it, and one is for a 308, 168 grain, and the other one is for a 55 grain full metal jacket, 223. So that's the standard AR-15 round. And here's the two knobs you drop on. And I don't know if you can see that, but I'm not going to take them out of the bag. But it's got the drop indicators right on. You just dial it up and pull the trigger. Okay, we're back to the original Battlezone, the 3 to 9 by 42 millimeter. That's this one here on the Mini 14, and I want to show you the 6 to 18 by 44 millimeter, how it stacks up size-wise. You'll find that it's about the same eyepiece. Actually, it's a little bit longer tube from the turret's back, just slightly, but not very much. The front bell is where the significant difference comes in with the adjustable anti-parallax. So this is going to be quite a bit better scope, I think, especially with the higher power. This here, because of the clarity of the optics, 300 yards with this scope is not a problem. 9 power at 300 yards, not a problem at all. But if you want to go a little further, let's say coyote headshots, 9 power is going to be just a little bit edgy there past 300 yards. As clear as the optics are in this, and I mean they're crazy clear, I wouldn't want to go more than 300 yards with it. This one here, the optics seem exceptionally clear, but with the 18 power on this thing here is going to reach out. I'm not going to have a problem with this going 400 and 500 yards. It should be just child's play with this scope. So, especially with the anti-parallax, it should really take a lot of the air out of the scope. Again, the scope, this one here, about $200. This one here, we're up in the almost $300 range. You should be able to find these around $250 to $275. This one here, you should be able to find around $150 to $200, I believe. Both of these are really worth the money. So now the question is, what do I put this on? I got really excited when I seen it. I'm going to have to see, what should I put this on? With the eye relief on this, crazy good eye relief, I wouldn't have problems putting this on a high power rifle at all. The eye relief is, it's actually on the Redfields, it's crazy good. It's like 3.5 inches or something. I was out in the backyard looking at it, and especially on the lower power, I mean, the thing's almost like a pistol scope. Very, very good eye relief. As you turn it up, of course, the eye relief goes away a little bit, but still, more eye relief than any other scope I've ever had. So, it's going to be a hard decision what to put it on. I don't know if you've actually seen the size of the glass in this thing. Crazy big glass on the pupil lens, or whatever they call it, the exit lens. Crazy big glass. So let's see what this fits on now. Okay, here's one of the rifles that would be a candidate for the new scope, and it's a Savage Model 200. I believe they call it an Edge. It's the very inexpensive Savage. It's in 223. This would be a fine scope for it. Except I already have a loophole on this. So it's a loophole rifleman. It's a great scope, clear optics. So I'm going to pass on putting it on this one. But if you have one of these rifles, this would be ideal for it. Okay, this rifle is a Savage 10FP, a very high-end, long-distance shooting piece of equipment. It's in 223. It has a really big scope on it, except it's a NRA sports optics scope. So it looks better than it really is. I'm kind of happy with it. It was a good value. I kind of got it almost for free. So I'm happy with the scope. It's a 50 millimeter, but I would rather have this scope on it because of the clarity. Although this is a 44 millimeter, I believe this one here would do a better job than this one. The only problem is, I think when I change this scope, when I can afford it, I'm going to go to a higher end loophole scope on it. I think this here, this is a mid-range scope, high-range rifle, so it would be good, but not really the ideal scope for this rifle. Okay, this is a 30-06. This is a fine rifle. It's had a little work done to it. This rifle would take this scope quite nicely. If you have a 30-06, this would be a very nice scope to put on it. The scope I have on it right now is one of them Tascos. In fact, yeah, this same one. This is a good scope that's on it, but this is a better scope. With the knobs you can put on it, the 308 knobs and the 223 knobs, depending on the rifle you have, I mean, you could just slam it on here and be ready to rock and roll pretty quick. Especially if you use factory ammo that's in the same speed range as indicated on the knob. So anyway, this would be a good one. I think at this point in time, my other rifle I have a Redfield scope on it, and I'm quite happy with it for hunting. This here is going to be a super, super long distance rifle. So I think this one here is going to wait for a high-end loophole scope also. So I think I'm going to pass putting the scope on here, but if you have a 30-06, this is a good one to put on it. Okay, this is the Mini 14. target rifle. If you watch my movie, Mini 14 target rifle, setting it up and shooting it. I've had very good luck with this rifle. It has a tascoscope on it. And normally with the tascoscope, because of the clarity of the optics, I can usually run it on 10 or 12 power. Although it goes up to 24 power, things get a little fuzzy. Good scope for the value, but this is a lower end scope and I've milked all out of it I can. Also, you notice I have this one rotated so I don't have the knob sticking on the ejection port side. And you know, I believe this is going to be the new home of this Redfield scope. It's roughly equivalent, a lot better clarity. I can tell you right now, a lot better clarity. It goes up to 18 power and it was very clear even at 18 power. It's got the anti-parallax on it, which this one here also has. But the attribute that makes this scope ideal for this is the symmetrical rectals in it. When you look at it, there's no difference, the crosshair one way or the other. So this is ideal because of the ejection on the Mini 14, violent ejection. This is the ideal scope to rotate. It would be the ideal scope for the other rifles too, but this one here is really screaming for this scope. And this rifle here deserves this scope. So I think this is going to be the new home for it. After I get it mounted, I'll do a little movie shooting this rifle and shooting the other rifle with the Battlezone on it. And you'll see, you'll be very impressed with, you know, just dial it and pull the trigger, dial it and pull the trigger at all the different ranges. So this is where it's going to go. Hey, thanks for watching my movie. I hope this helped you making a decision on whether or not to buy this scope or not. The other thing I failed to mention is minutes on the turrets and on the lens. The graduations on the crosshair are in minutes. On the 6 to 18 power, it's 1 minute per graduation when you sit on 18 power. On the 3 to 9, it's 2 minutes per graduation when you sit on 9 power. So it's the same scale, you might say. A lot of scopes are minutes on the turrets, mil dots, which are different than minutes, on the lenses. So this should make it a lot easier for you to estimate your holdovers or to make quick adjustments if you're shooting an animal and it comes closer or further away. You don't even have to go for the knob. You can just use the mil dot, not the mil dots, you can use the minute of angles on the crosshairs to make your adjustment. So anyway, good scope, and later on I will do a movie and I'll show you these scopes at the range, how they're performing in real life. But I'm also going to do a movie showing you how to calibrate a scope before you even go to the range, how to check the scope to make sure that when you turn the knob it's doing what you think it's doing. If you're too near the ends, they kind of go non-linear. You need to know where that point is. You need to understand your turrets if you're going to use the turrets. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a future movie and show you how to use the tables, the ballistics tables to go with it at a lower level, not at a professional level. So it should be easy for you to understand to move to the next level. I also had some requests showing me, you know, people want to know how to mount a scope and how to use the scope, how to adjust the scope. Do you adjust it? You keep adjusting it. People at the range, I see them playing with their scope and playing with their scope because they really don't understand what they're doing. How to adjust it one time and then use the holdovers at different ranges. So I'm going to do some movies on that in the future. So anyway, sorry I haven't made a movie in a long time. Have a nice time at the range and shoot safe, shoot straight.